They didn't lower their voices when they mentioned my name. The courthouse lobby smelled like bleach and old documents. Cameras waited like hungry mouths. My wife stood 3 steps away from me. Close enough to reach, far enough to deceive. Her sister sat on a bench wrapped in a shawl, eyes puffy, hands pressed to a belly that no longer carried anything. She pushed her, my wife said, loud enough for the microphones. He caused the miscarriage. The word struck the room like a shattered plate. People turned. Phones lifted. Someone muttered my name with disgust, like it left a bad taste. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I watched my wife's reflection in the glass doors. How her lips quivered perfectly. How her hands trembled on cue. I had loved those hands once. The judge hadn't even arrived yet, and the verdict was already pressing down on me. As the bailiff reached for my arm, my wife finally looked at me, not with fear, but with relief. That was when I realized this wasn't about sorrow. It was about substitution. We met when everything in my life still seemed possible. She laughed freely back then, loud, unfiltered, the kind of laugh that made strangers turn and grin. She said I made her feel secure. I believed her because I wanted to. We built habits. Sunday mornings, burnt coffee, shared silences that felt deserved. Trust didn't come all at once. It built up brick by brick until I stopped checking if the walls were sturdy. Her sister was always there, too often, too entangled. A shadow that never exited the room. When the pregnancy was announced, my wife wept in my arms like it was ours. I didn't question it. Families blend together when you love someone enough. But warmth fades silently. It doesn't erupt. It dims. She stopped touching me without cause. Her phone never left her grip. Doors closed where they hadn't before. I told myself it was stress. I was mistaken. It began with silence. Text messages deleted. Late nights explained weekly. A locked study she claimed was for work, even though she'd never needed privacy before. Her sister avoided my gaze. Not hostility. Something worse. Guilt. I started to observe instead of ask. I noticed how my wife flinched when I entered rooms unexpectedly. How she practiced stories before sharing them. How her grief seemed rehearsed, timed, performed. I checked nothing. Confronted no one. I waited. Predators rush. Survivors watch. The truth came without fanfare. A folder misplaced. Left behind. Medical papers. Timelines, emails printed for reasons I didn't yet grasp. The miscarriage didn't occur when they claimed it did, and I wasn't even in the country when it happened. I sat on the floor, papers trembling in my hands. My chest burned like I'd swallowed flames. My fingers went numb one by one. Then I found the bank statements. Joint accounts drained gradually. Assets shifted quietly. My signature forged well enough to pass initial scrutiny. They weren't just removing me. They were erasing me. The pain lasted exactly 3 minutes. After that, something colder took hold. I stopped feeling betrayed. I started feeling intrigued. Prison is excellent for planning. Time expands. Noise recedes. Patterns appear. I refuse their visits every month. Let them sit in that waiting room practicing apologies they'd never offer, wondering why I wouldn't face them. Meanwhile, I wrote letters not to them, but to lawyers, accountants, old contacts who owed me favors, quiet people who understood discretion. I learned the rules, learned how evidence lives, how timelines strangle lies. I let my wife think she had triumphed. I let her sell what she thought was hers. I let her sister testify boldly, unaware her medical records had already contradicted her. By the time my release date appeared on paper, everything was in place. They thought I'd lost 2 years. I'd gained clarity. The morning I walked out, the city looked unchanged. That was the first mercy. By noon, the accounts froze. By 1, subpoenas arrived. Not dramatically, methodically. At 2, her office escorted her out quietly because reputation dies faster than innocence. Her sister was questioned before dinner. She cried harder than she ever had in court. The truth bends when pressure is applied correctly. I didn't attend any of it. I sat in a rented apartment and listened to voicemail after voicemail pile up like corpses. Confusion, panic, rage. Finally, my wife's voice, not rehearsed this time. She asked why. I didn't respond. The answer wouldn't help her. I visited the courthouse alone that evening. Same lobby, same glass doors. I stood where they had accused me and felt nothing. Justice doesn't roar, it settles. I walked out holding a thin envelope. Confirmation, closure, and the last legal tie binding me to them. I dropped it in the trash outside. Some things don't deserve preservation. As I stepped into the night, the city lights reflected off the pavement like shattered mirrors. I caught my reflection briefly, unbroken, and for the first time in 2 years, completely alone.